Welcome to today's deep dive. And, we're starting off with a question that, well, it sounds incredibly simple on the surface.
But it's really not.
No, it's actually kind of terrifying once you sit with it. And that question is, are you actually getting richer? Or are you just like looking at bigger numbers on a screen?
Right. And that gets straight to the core of the whole psychological trap we're analyzing today.
Exactly. So, our mission today is to completely change how you, the listener, view your savings, your wealth, and what financial progress actually looks like.
Because the source material we have today is this deeply reflective, honestly, pretty brave personal essay about financial awakenings.
Yeah. And the author, they weren't a reckless gambler.
Not at all.
They weren't, day trading meme stocks or trying to time the crypto market. They were meticulously disciplined.
Right. They followed all the classic advice.
But they slowly realized that their quote unquote safe financial strategy was actually quietly destroying their wealth. So, what's really fascinating here is how this essay dismantles the dangerous illusion of nominal wealth.
Yeah, it forces you to look at the mechanics of true purchasing power. And it shows why playing it safe, might actually be the riskiest financial move of all.
So, to really understand this trap, I think we have to look at the author's initial philosophy, which is honestly very relatable.
Oh, extremely relatable. For years, their entire approach could be summed up as basically work hard, save, and don't be wasteful.
Right. The golden rule.
Exactly. And they would log into their bank account, look at their balance in their local currency, which in this specific essay was the Indonesian rupiah, and they just watch that number steadily tick upward month after month.
And I guarantee almost anyone listening can relate to that profound sense of security. You see a higher digital number, and your brain just floods you with dopamine.
Oh, absolutely.
It feels like tangible evidence that you're winning.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. It's almost like playing a video game where your score keeps going up. So you feel like you're doing great, but you don't realize the levels are getting disproportionately harder in the background. That's a great way to put it. Because the human brain is just highly susceptible to what behavioral economists call money illusion.
Money illusion, right?
Yeah, we naturally view our wealth in nominal terms, meaning the literal face value of the currency.
Just the number itself.
Exactly. Rather than in real inflation-adjusted terms. We just treat the currency we use to buy our daily coffee as an absolute constant. So the author believed that discipline alone equaled financial security. By just refusing to spend money, they assumed they were successfully protecting it.
Completely ignoring the invisible forces acting on that money.
Right. It's a false sense of security.
So that comforting illusion, it eventually shatters. The author actually looked at the world around them. They moved the conversation from just their bank account to the broader economy.
Yeah, the turning point in this essay is pretty dramatic. It happened one night when the author decided to review old financial records.
They fully expected to feel proud, right? Like taking a victory lap.
Exactly. They expected to see all this nominal growth and feel great. But instead, they started cross-referencing their bank balance against actual tangible benchmarks in the real world.
Like what kind of benchmarks?
Well, they looked at the current prices of local real estate. They looked at the spot price of gold.
Oh, wow.
And they looked at the exchange rate of their local currency against the US dollar. And a wave of dread just washed over them.
Because while their balance had gone up, the prices of houses and gold had climbed way faster.
Exactly. The harsh mathematical reality was that their money could actually buy less now than it could a few years ago. Their percentage of ownership of things that actually mattered was shrinking.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second here
All right.
because, our listeners already understand that inflation exists. That's just economics 101. So if someone is listening to this and they're, I don't know, easily covering their rent, they're buying groceries, their daily life is fully funded in their local currency, why should they care what gold or the US dollar is doing? I mean, isn't a bigger number in the bank always just better?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you care because those macro benchmarks, housing, gold, foreign currency, they are the ultimate barometers of true wealth
Okay, how so?
because they dictate the future boundaries of your mobility and your security. You might be keeping up with your grocery bill today, but those assets act as the underlying denominators for the global cost of living.
Right, because things don't exist in a vacuum.
Exactly. In an emerging market context, for example, a depreciating local currency against the dollar mechanically means that the cost of imported goods, energy, medical technology, all of that is going to systematically surge.
So even if your grocery bill hasn't ruined you yet, it's like this invisible tide is rising under the floorboards.
That's exactly it. The author realized the cost of living was far outpacing their savings rate. And here's the chilling part of the essay. There was no catastrophic event, no market crash wiped them out, nobody hacked their account.
It was just quietly eroded.
Yes, eroded by the loss of purchasing power. The wealth simply decayed.
Man, that realization really forces a perspective shift. It creates this wedge between two concepts that we usually treat as the exact same thing: earning money and protecting money.
Society conditions us to believe they're the same. If you can earn it, you can keep it.
Right. But the author comes to this profound realization that working hard to add money and knowing how to protect the value of that money, those are two entirely different skill sets.
Entirely distinct disciplines.
And keeping everything in cash meant they were totally failing at the latter. Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It's like working exhausted to fill up a bucket with water, but completely ignoring this slow leak at the very bottom of the bucket.
Yes. And that slow leak is devastating. Especially for the target audience of this source material. Young families, professionals, novice investors. These are people in their peak earning years.
Right. They're trading their time for money.
Exactly. They're trading their finite, most precious asset, their time, for currency. If that currency is continuously devalued, they are mechanically taking a retroactive pay cut on the years of labor they've already performed.
Oof, a retroactive pay cut. That hurts to even think about.
It's brutal. The author realized their rupiah savings were just being left in the dust by appreciating assets, which proves that saving cash in a bank account is just a defensive move.
But you're playing a game that requires offense.
Precisely. You can't just sit on the bench and hope the opposing team stops scoring.
Okay, so because saving cash is a guaranteed way to slowly lose purchasing power, the author had to figure out what to actually do with their money to protect it, which leads us to this whole new understanding of investing and true diversification.
Right. The author admits they used to think, as long as I invest, I'm safe.
Which a lot of people think.
Oh, definitely. So they dabbled. They bought some bank deposits, picked a few random stocks.
Just throwing darts blindfolded.
Basically, yeah. They assumed that because they owned a few different things, they were diversified. But they didn't understand that true diversification isn't just about having a bunch of random stuff. It's about having assets that serve different functions.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I mean, if just throwing money into a random stock or an ETF isn't the magic cure, what actually is?
Well, the expert analysis here breaks down the specific asset functions the author finally learned they needed. A true portfolio isn't just a pile of stocks. It needs assets chosen for 5 distinct jobs.
Okay, let's break these down. Let's get into the mechanics, because this is where the theory turns into a literal survival guide.
Yeah.
What's function number 1?
Number 1 is growth.
Growth. Okay, so we're talking about out-earning inflation here.
Exactly. Growth assets have an aggressive mandate. They must outpace the rising cost of living and actually expand your real purchasing power over time.
So primarily equities, the stock market.
Yes, fractional ownership in productive, publicly traded businesses. Because a business isn't just a static pile of cash in a vault. It's a living organism that adjusts to macroeconomic pressures.
Right, like if the cost of raw materials goes up, a strong company just raises its prices.
Exactly. They pass those costs onto the consumer, protecting their profit margins. So by owning shares in that company, your capital rides on top of the inflation wave instead of drowning under it.
Makes sense. But the engine of growth is inherently volatile, right? I mean, a company can mess up a product launch, or the whole stock market can just tank 20%.
Which is exactly why you need function number 2, protecting value. If growth is your offensive line, protecting value is your heavy defense.
Okay, heavy defense. So we're looking at hard assets here.
Yes. Assets chosen specifically because they are highly reliable stores of wealth over centuries, not just financial quarters. Physical gold is the classic historical example.
But gold doesn't produce a yield. It doesn't pay a dividend.
It doesn't. But its mechanical value is its absolute scarcity. An ounce of gold bought a fine tailored suit in ancient Rome, and an ounce of gold buys a fine tailored suit today. It maintains purchasing power parity. High-quality land serves a similar function.
So they act as like a reservoir, storing the energy of your wealth so it doesn't just evaporate when the stock market is crashing.
Exactly right.
Okay, I see the distinction, but there's a glaring practical issue here for everyday life. Let's say I have stocks for growth, and I have gold or land to anchor the value. I'm heavily invested.
Sure.
But I can't, like, walk into a grocery store and shave off a flake of a gold bar to buy some milk, and I definitely can't liquidate my rental property in a day to pay for a sudden medical emergency.
And that brings us perfectly to function number 3, maintaining liquidity. Because a technically perfect portfolio on a spreadsheet is entirely useless if you can't access capital when real life happens.
Right. The medical bills, the sudden car repairs.
Exactly. Liquidity means having a designated portion of your net worth in assets that can be converted to usable cash within 24 to 48 hours without taking a massive loss.
I see. It's kind of like an oxygen tank. If you're walking on dry land, carrying this heavy oxygen tank seems wildly inefficient. It slows you down. But the second you fall underwater, that tank is the only thing keeping you alive. Because, you can't breathe a house.
That is a perfect analogy. Without liquidity, which is usually high-yield savings accounts, short-term treasury bills, things like that, you are operating from a position of weakness. If a shock hits and your money is locked up in real estate, you're forced to sell at a steep discount. You permanently destroy your own wealth.
So liquidity prevents forced liquidation, okay? That covers personal shocks. But what about when the whole global system seizes up, like a geopolitical crisis or a massive bank failure? A standard savings account won't save you there.
No, it won't. And that is a completely different category of disaster, which requires the 4th function, facing crises.
Facing crises, how is that different from just protecting value?
It's about possessing assets that exhibit negative correlation to the broader market during a global panic. When everything else plummets, these specific assets act as a parachute. They hold their ground, or their value actually spikes.
Wait, really? What actually goes up when the global market is crashing?
Well, for an investor in an emerging market, holding a strong foreign currency like the US dollar historically acts as a crisis hedge. But another prime example is US Treasury bonds. When panic hits, institutional capital flees from risky stocks and piles into the perceived safety of US government debt.
And that massive demand drives the price of those bonds up.
Exactly. So while your growth stocks are bleeding out, your crisis assets are generating a positive return, artificially stabilizing your total net worth.
Wow. It's like having a designated fire extinguisher in the building before you ever smell smoke. You hope you never use it, but just having it changes how you navigate the building.
Precisely.
Okay, so we have growth, protecting value, maintaining liquidity, and facing crises. What's the 5th piece of the puzzle?
The 5th function is generating cash flow. Ultimately, the goal isn't just to stare at a well-diversified spreadsheet. The goal is to live off the economic production of those assets without destroying your principal capital.
Right. You need investments that regularly kick off usable income. Instead of chopping down your apple tree for firewood to stay warm for one night, you build a system where you can just harvest the apples every season, forever.
Beautifully said. The mechanics of cash flow are usually dividend-paying stocks, rental properties generating monthly lease payments, or bonds paying regular interest. This creates a continuous stream of new capital.
Which you can use to fund your lifestyle or just reinvest back into the other 4 buckets.
Yes. It creates a self-sustaining financial ecosystem.
It totally shifts your identity.
Yeah.
You go from being a scavenger who has to constantly hunt for the next meal to being a farmer who is cultivating a reliable, perpetual crop.
And that was the author's ultimate awakening. Realizing that true financial security only exists when you orchestrate all 5 of these functions together.
Right, because if you only focus on growth, a market crash ruins you.
And if you only hold value protection assets like gold, systemic inflation slowly bleeds you over decades.
And if you only chase cash flow, you expose your principal to massive risk. You really need the complete ecosystem to thrive across all economic seasons.
Exactly. You have to graduate from being a passive hoarder of currency to acting as the active, strategic architect of your wealth.
Man, that is powerful. So let's just enthusiastically recap the journey we've taken today. We started with that super common, comforting trap of just watching your local bank balance go up. Then we walked through that brutal reality check of cross-referencing that balance against real estate, gold, and foreign exchange.
The wake-up call.
Right. And finally, we dismantled that old just put it in savings mindset and replaced it with a purposeful, multifunctional portfolio, one that grows, protects, stays liquid, survives crises, and generates cash flow.
The author stopped judging their success by the nominal number on their statement and started evaluating their portfolio based on how efficiently it executed those 5 jobs.
And I want to pose this directly to you, listening to us right now. The next time you open your financial apps or, log into your investment dashboard, Do not let your brain fall for that optical illusion.
Don't just smile because the nominal number is slightly larger.
Exactly. Ask yourself if your capital is actually deployed to do the work. Are you genuinely expanding your percentage of ownership in the real world? Or are you just admiring a pile of cash while the invisible tide of inflation washes it away? Ask yourself, are you really getting richer? Or are you just holding on to a bigger number?
And if you want to truly stress test your financial reality today, consider this final thought. It builds right on the author's core awakening. Take your entire net worth right now, every account, every piece of equity.
Okay.
Now, mathematically convert that total into the purchasing power of 10 years ago. Adjust for what housing, energy, medical care, and food actually used to cost a decade back.
Oh, wow. That is a brutal calculation.
It is. But when you strip away the illusion of the nominal numbers and adjust for reality, ask yourself, how much time, security, and freedom have you actually bought yourself over the last 10 years?
Are you genuinely further ahead?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, true wealth isn't measured by the local currency you manage to stockpile. It is measured exclusively in the life, the choices, and the absolute autonomy that your capital can secure for you in the real world.